Thank you so much. Thank you, JLF. Thank you, BluOne Ink, and thank you all for coming here this afternoon, so soon after lunch, if you've had your lunch. But I think we are very privileged to be able to talk about Sri Aurobindo today here, because it's not only India's 75th anniversary, but it's also the 150th anniversary of Sri Aurobindo, who, as you know, was born in 1872 on the 15th of August. And the starting point, or the takeoff point for our session, is this amazing book by Dr. Pariksith Singh. It's called Sri Aurobindo and Philosophy, and that's also the title of this session. I think there's been no book like this in the last 20-25 years, where Sri Aurobindo is put face to face, as it were, in conversation with the leading philosophers of the West and the East. So this is a book, if you want to understand Sri Aurobindo, this is a book that you have to get hold of. I'm also really honored today that Dr. Pariksith ji's parents are here, his mother and father are here, and we want to welcome and honor them, as well as his brother is also here. So sir, if you can please stand up, I want people to look at you. He's himself an important writer, social worker, and a political figure in Rajasthan's history. And we are deeply honored that the family is here to support us today. Sri Aurobindo and philosophy is a very vast topic.
Yes.
But let's plunge straight into one aspect of Sri Aurobindo, which is very relevant to our times. I was in conversation the other day with the Norwegian ambassador. They are sponsoring the bookmark here. And we were talking about the multiple crises in the modern world.
Yes.
We were talking, of course, of the war in Ukraine, but there's an energy crisis. We know what's happening with global warming. There's a climate and energy crisis. There's an economic crisis. As we all know, there's war, and we've just come out of a pandemic. We don't really know much about this virus. And it seems that humanity faces multiple challenges. And whatever we know, and we know quite a bit, at least we like to believe we know quite a bit. I'm not sure how much we know. But whatever we know in our multiple disciplines in universities and all the experts, all the national advisory councils, the economists, the defense specialists, etc., don't seem to be able to get a grip on these multiple crises that are challenging us, affecting our world, and in fact the future of human survival. How would you react, Dr. Singh, to the idea that we are, the dinosaurs of this age, on the verge of extinction, and unless we get our act together, either AI or some other species is going to supplant us. It might even be bacteria and viruses.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have reached a point that man as the mental animal, I'm using the word mental animal with the clear understanding of what it takes to be a man. Sri Aurobindo said very clearly, must be surpassed. And by that he meant we have to find something deeper within us which rules our governance, our systems, our processes, our own lives, the universal life, and what the institutions that we have created. Because the institutions that we have created have become their own barriers, including nationalism, including religion, including all kinds of financial issues that you see, the food supplies you talked about, healthcare. So I think we need to find that secret within us, and we need to live it. And that secret he spells out. He's the only philosopher who has a detailed program of the future. I call it the future of evolution. No other philosopher has brought Vedanta into a worldview. Where are we going? And no other philosopher has brought the Western thought to this point. What can be done? And with a very practical, clear understanding of what it will take. And I think we all need to become aware of his solutions to contextualize the present issues that we are seeing. And you're seeing the issue with transhumanism. Modern science wants us to become robots. They want to replace our brains. They want to put computers inside our brain. Almost want to make robots. They're talking about a singularity, but the singularity is not that of consciousness, of love, or the singularity of a universal vision. It's the singularity of a machine which will replace us. Is there another vision before us that gives us an alternative to this transhumanism, which has taken a life of its own? It's going crazy, this AI. Is there someone wise enough, wide enough, high enough to give us an alternative view, alternative approach? And the only one who comes to mind is Sri Aurobindo.
So thank you so much for that. This brings us to the heart of our conversation today, which is the idea of evolution. We all know evolution as a Darwinian concept, biological evolution, and then we've also heard about social evolution, and to some extent we know that most of our institutions are in a process of evolution, sometimes of devolution, because they are collapsing.
Right.
We didn't mention universities, but universities are also completely overtaken by fear, divisiveness, wokeism, etc. But so the heart of our discussion is really the idea of spiritual evolution, which only Sri Aurobindo spells out at such great length. And I want to ask you, when we started off, you said that man, or the human, is a very mental creature, and the mind is the barrier. But as Sri Aurobindo says in Thought, the Paraclete, the mind is also, by realizing its own limitations, the opening to something beyond the mind, which Sri Aurobindo called the supramental. So can you tell us how we can understand the supramental, and how can we become partners, how can we become stakeholders, how can we become agents of the supramental? What is it that we can do, Pariksith ji, in order to bring down the supramental, so to speak?
Supramental is a very big word, and I usually don't use it because a lot of people I meet who have read him are under the illusion that they have realized the supramental, or they understand it. But in a very simple terminology that he himself used is truth consciousness. It's the consciousness of truth always. See, we live in a consciousness that is split. We live in a duality, state of duality. You and I, us and them, ours and theirs. Truth consciousness, the truth of the universe, which is the Sat, which is the principle of the universe that upholds the universe, and that is the Indian concept. That consciousness, which totally knows it, is one with it, which means if that consciousness has an idea or a will, it happens instantaneously. There's no separation like we have. We have an idea and it will take time for us to make it happen, or we will have to try to make it happen. That state is a very advanced spiritual state, which I do not believe any of us has lived or has realized. However, what he did recommend is we find certain levels of awareness which will help us open to that action. Because
Exactly. I was getting to that.
Right.
What I meant was that if you want to understand the supramental conceptually, then what Sri Aurobindo says is that you have the Sat Chit Ananda, which is the highest level of consciousness, what we call Parabrahman. But it does not create, it is not active. The level just below it is the supramental, which is also created. That's why Chit, that is the movement, is very important. And we are way below that. So what Sri Aurobindo does is he talks about the overmind. So all the levels of consciousness which are beyond the mental. And I think you'll agree that all of us, either through music, meditation, even exercise, literature, love, have had an experience, or even deep sleep. In fact, in Shushupti, we go there every day. We have a sense of being connected with something that's bigger than ourselves, than our own limited identity, which is so tied up with our body, isn't it? But what is important about Sri Aurobindo's yoga, which he called integral yoga, is that he talks about the 5 levels, which need to be addressed if you want to transform yourself. So Sri Aurobindo's yoga is not about retreating from the world. It's not about going into a cave. It's not about individual self-realization alone. And this is very important for all of us. This is the time not of individual moksha, that, मैं अपने आप सबकी चिंता छोड़ के, मेरे घर परिवार वालों की, मेरे समाज की चिंता छोड़ करके मैं कहीं चला जाऊं अपने मोक्ष के लिए या मुक्ति के लिए. ये वो दौर नहीं है. Right now, wherever we are, we have to work together for each other's transformation. So Sri Aurobindo has these 5 levels, and then I'll just come to you. So there's the physical. Every day we are in the physical. We wake up, we need, sleep, we need food, we have to go to the bathroom, etc. The physical is so much with us, isn't it? And if the physical is not right, our moods can change. We know there's epigenetics. Everything that we do is connected, hardwired to the body. Then there's the vital. The layer of emotions, of our energies. Sometimes we say, yaar, koi energy nahi hai, kuch kaam hi nahi kar sakte. Then the mental level, and we are mostly at the mental level. I'm a professor, and we are stuck in the mental level. Our education system does not address the vital or the physical at all. And then beyond that is the psychic. If you were there in the earlier session, then Partho was saying that you have to discover that antaratma, that undying self within you, and then you're not afraid. You're not afraid to die. You're not afraid to do what you want to do. And fear completely vanishes. And then is the spiritual. So let me ask you, and we can dial back to the question of consciousness, post-humanism, transhumanism, but how do you understand Sri Aurobindo's great statement, all life is yoga, and how can we link it to this aspiration to transform our reality in a very practical way?
So I think let's break it down into let's go back to the old question, the original question. How do we open up to the supermind? Can we open up to the supermind? And his solution was very simple and down to earth practical. Most of the great yogis, the great people, they're practical people, they're not theoretical people. His approach was what is called the psychic being, or the Agni in the heart. That we all have. That is the state where you have a spontaneous sense of love, a spontaneous sense of surrender to the divine, a simple sense of being in a sweet, quiet, comfortable place. That is how most relationships of true love start. If you see Mirabai, if you see the great stories of love anywhere, or great art, great poetry, you will see the psychic being reflecting. And he's one of the first philosophers who focuses on that. And his word was, psychicize your being, which means that bhava, that feeling of deep adoration for the divine, and which is no longer part of the ego, awaken that Agni in the heart, which also is not something where you withdraw. It needs to take over your mind, it needs to take over your prana, your vital, which is all over. See, we are all divided. So mind is going somewhere, heart is going somewhere, the body is somewhere else. And then it should take charge of the physical also. If that can be done, he used to call it the psychicization of the whole being, the lower parts of our being, then the first step is taken. The second step was to develop that sense of the cosmic, the universal. We are living as individuals, as egos, but if we see the vastness of creation, the whole earth as one vast universal reality where all these movements are happening at the same time, held together. It's almost like a cell with everything moving perfectly. There's a tremendous intelligence in everything that is happening, which is why we are here. Otherwise, there's no reason why we should be together. That cosmic level, we need to open ourselves to, because that vastness is what takes away the papa. And papa is duality in our tradition. When you have that sense of duality, but the moment the sense of duality is gone, in that vastness of holding other darshanas, other philosophy, other viewpoints, other perspectives, then that's the second opening. And the third, as you pointed out, the levels above our mind, and we can start opening to that. There are meditations for it. And there are levels of consciousness. He showed how effective they are. He showed that in literature with examples of great teachers we have had, like Sri Krishna, who worked from that consciousness of the whole globe within him. But coming back to all life is yoga, the greatness of Sri Aurobindo, like Sri Krishna, was he did not exclude any part of our life. Which means, usually in our tradition, unfortunately, we misunderstood the great Shankaracharya, we misunderstood the Buddha, and we started rejecting life and the world, and it became an illusion or a dukkha sansar. So this is Maya, drop it, go take sannyas, sit in a corner, go to the Himalayas. But that is not karma yoga. Sri Krishna says it very clearly. He's asking Arjuna to fight for dharma, for the truth, for righteousness. Even if he has to take on his teachers, his family, his friends, he has to kill them. Now that karma yoga which Sri Krishna taught us, we forgot. And so we started excluding things. Sri Krishna does not exclude. He takes everything in himself, whether it's Sankhya yoga, whether it's yoga itself, whether it's bhakti, he takes it all in himself. Sri Aurobindo did the same thing in his vast vision. He brought, of course, he always said Sri Krishna was his guru. He taught him when he was in his meditation through the Gita, he learned through the Upanishads, the Vedas, including every part. This, what we are doing right now is karma yoga. Everyone is doing their thing, that is karma yoga. Can we do this karma as a surrender to the divine within or the divine above? If we can get that bhava, if it's a true total surrender, then immediately all life has become yoga. You're not excluding your physical life, your vyavaharik life, practical life. That is why India became poor, because we started excluding life. But we have to be sashakt, strong, not only above spiritually, but in the mind, in the vital, in the body. We cannot exclude, and that awakening which India always had. We were brilliant in the arts, we were great, our literature, whether in Sanskrit or other languages, profusion of science, architecture, drama, how beautiful things we created, because we did not exclude life. But at some point there a break happened. Perhaps there was a reason, maybe Yug Dharma, that we took a break and everything was dukkha and we had to find something. But now the Yug Dharma is we embrace life, we live like an Arjuna and take it back and live it up to the fullest and stand up for Dharma. And I'm not trying to be, leftist, rightist here. This is our center. We have to find our center, the Kendra, and that is the path he showed. He did not even exclude Tantra. He brought Tantra as a higher Tantra. He elevated it, he purified. This transformation of everything that we do is constantly there in the Veda. Transformation of everything we do is a part of Sri Aurobindo. Constantly he's trying to say, psychicize, spiritualize. That is the step that we all can do. And it doesn't have, you don't have to be great yogis sitting out there. Every moment, right here, if we aspire for purity, for truth, for love, for goodness, for kindness, for gentleness, for standing up for integrity, we can practice the yoga right here, right now. He was a freedom fighter right in the midst of fighting for India. He's the one who initiated the will for Swarajya, Swadharma, the first man who instilled it through Vande Mataram. And the Pal, Bal, Lal trio, he was the so-called extremist, the deluded man. But look, in 3 years, 4 years, he brought that will to the nation. He made the Surat Congress split, and he instilled that. And 22 years later, the Indian National Congress had a conversion and accepted that as our position.
Swaraj.
Swaraj. So this, absolutely, this yogi who's fighting and he is willing to die and willing to take on the most powerful empire on earth, the British, Pan-Britannica. He could fight it, he could create it. That little one man could do that. And that is what we have to realize. Each one of us has that power within, that he realized, and each one of us can bring it out. We don't have to sit there, go somewhere and do it. That's what I understand from all life is yoga. I know I stretched the answer too long, but That's when you start talking about it, you can't stop.
Now, I want to pick up a couple of threads that came out. I think they're very important. All life is yoga also means that the so-called negative emotions or experiences that we undergo, all of us undergo them, even in the family. Forget about the professional world where someone wants to undermine you, the competition, the struggle. If you see them as being given to you for your own development, education, evolution, then that becomes a gift. It's not a curse. It becomes an opportunity to learn. It's an opportunity to transform. So when we say all life is yoga and we don't exclude anything, what it also means is to have an integral acceptance and love of yourself. Because if you really, I can do a quick survey, please raise your hands. How many of you really love yourselves? This is a very healthy audience. I'm happy to know that you love yourselves. How many of you have completely accepted yourselves? Completely. See, the thing comes down a little bit. How many of you would have preferred not to have certain things in yourselves and in your lives? See, so it's a kind of downward slope. But if you accept the dictum or the philosophical wisdom of all life is yoga, then what you've got has been tailor-made for your own development and your own evolution, And through that acceptance, Pariksith spoke about simplicity. When the psychic opening happens, you become quiet and very simple. In an earlier session, I don't know if my friend Shailendra is here, he talked about trust. See, institutions lack trust. And even there's a big trust deficit between the governed, and those who govern them, the rulers and the ruled. How many of us really trust, our leaders? So you can't have trust unless, in a way, your psyche is open, you're simple, and you have some kind of love in your heart where you feel that I'm not going to harm you. I don't see any reason why you want to harm me. And if you do want to harm me, it's not that I'm going to roll over and die. I'm also going to stand up and tell you, sorry, but this is how far you can go. So being a yogi in everyday life is what Sri Aurobindo tells us or teaches us how to do. But let me go to one of the things you said about Agni, because the very first Rik of the Rig Veda, as it is now given to us, is Agni Mere Purohitam. So he says, oh Purohit, stoke up that Agni which is inside. What do you think that means? What is that Agni inside? And I know you're working on the Vedas and Sri Aurobindo, and one of his great books, which I recommend to everyone, is The Secret of the Veda. Because we all say that the Vedas are the foundation of our Sanatan Dharma, but nobody knows what the Vedas are, right? So what is that Agni that Sri Aurobindo wants us to, should I say, ignite?
Agnimihile purohitam yagyasya devam ridvijam. Right? That's a beautiful line. And I recommend Ratnadhatamam. So I adore Agni. Agnimihile. Ila is love. I adore Agni. What is this Agni? People think it's a ritualistic fire. You burn fire, you put sticks in it, and that's Agni. I love that Agni. Agni is a shlesha, as Swami Dayananda has explained to us. And shlesha, if you know, is in simple English is a pun, or what we call paronomasia. One word has many meanings. So Agni is not just an external fire. To Swami Dayananda, Agni represents the Atman and the Paramatman with the extension. That is a very beautiful explanation. To put it very simply, because if Agni has probably 15 senses depending on your state, but Agni is the divine within. Sri Aurobindo calls Agni the divine will. That will itself has the knowledge. But if to very simply understand Agni is the divine within, in everything we are doing, what is the meaning of yajna? Yajna is not putting sticks in that fire. Yajna is offering everything, including oneself, to the divine. Divine within, and it is divine is not given a shape, not given a name, simple Agni. And Agni, you can take it as energy, which is everywhere. And the beauty of this is, There is Agni, that is Bhautik Agni. There is Agni within. There is Jathar Agni in Ayurveda, which is in your cells. There is Agni in water, according to the Veda, which is, think about how beautiful. There is Agni right in the unconscious, dark depths. There is Agni going up to Vidyut, where Indra, who is our higher luminous mind, Indra is carrying Vidyut Agni, thunderbolt. Go above Surya. Surya is the symbol of Satchidananda, of which is the supermind, and that is Saurya Agni. It is the same Agni throughout. We can start right with ourselves. Sri Aurobindo called it beautifully. It is the psychic within. It is the divine who is housed in within us, always burning, never dying, and who leads from the front. Purohita. Purata means the front. It's not someone sitting and chanting for you. Purata is the front. Your Purohita who's leading your life, that Agni within, the divine within is leading your life. You have no idea why you are here, where you are going, you have no clue. But Agni knows, because Agni has that knowledge instinctively within, and once we touch that, we are aligned with that knowledge. So if you want to align with the supramental, the Surya Agni, the Vidyut Agni, well, find the Agni here first. Symbolically, the Veda is beautiful if you understand the symbol. And Agni, if you, and Swami Dayananda even started doing Nirukta on it. Nirukta is the study of ancient words through etymology, understanding the meaning of sound. The way Sanskrit is, see, in English, if I may take a few minutes, in English, if I say a bottle, this is a bottle. There's no reason why I should call it a bottle. And you could have called it a tree. And still, you say, okay, tree, everybody repeats it. This is, you start calling it a tree. But in Sanskrit, every sound has a meaning, has a guna. That guna translates into a family of related sounds. So the Bij Dhvani has a meaning. For example, a very simple example, all of us know this. Ma. Ma in Sanskrit is the end, completion, fullness. And think about the words that come from it. Ma, Matri, mother, mom, mater. Think of other words that come from it. Mrityu, completion. Mouth, mortuary, right? Spanish, morte, right? Mortality. Take it to another level. The ocean, marine, ma. So the sound has multiple meanings. We cannot say this. English is limited, modern languages are limited. One name can only mean a certain thing. But the way our ancestors started, the sounds had a psychological impact, had an impact when you're articulating, when you're hearing it, and Sanskrit touches that Bij Dhvani, the root sound. If we can understand that wisdom, suddenly the Veda becomes so beautiful, because Agni starts with the word A. A is, in Sanskrit, has the meaning, A is the beginning. Alphabets, all your alphabet, right? Aleph, Be, Te, alphabet, A, B, C. A is the sense you get is beginning. Just like with Ma, the baby came out, and baby can only say Ma, that's the easiest thing to say. And there is this blurred face, this loving shape that is feeding the baby. Ma becomes the end, everything, right? So there's a psychological reason why certain sounds have certain impact on us. Going to that original psychological level, the Bij Dhvani becomes very important. And you see that tradition carried through, whether in Tantra or Yoga, we take these root sounds and we meditate on them. Why? Because if we know how to meditate on them, they can improve, open up certain energies within us. So coming back to Agni, Agni is the preeminence. Agre is the word that Swami Dayananda said. Agre is one of the roots. It's always in the front. Eminent, that is your eminent thing. We don't notice it. But that is the most eminent thing about us. It is our Atman, that is the consciousness. Pure consciousness is what Agni is, which each of us has. It cannot be destroyed, cannot be touched, it cannot be made ugly, it cannot be made dirty. Think about it. what is the best symbol of something? I take this water, put some dirt in it, water will become dirty. If I take Agni and I put the junkiest thing in the world, it will purify. Agni will take the worst, you put cow dung in it, it will get purified. Agni remains pure. That is why it is a beautiful symbol, beautiful spiritual experience of the divine. So I know Agni itself will take us forever, but every symbol has a meaning and a root cause, that sound that connects to us, that we can start tapping, because we have covered our education. So we're talking about education. Education itself is messed up because children are not allowed to flow, that Agni doesn't come, the heart doesn't open up. They are being taught through artificial intelligence. What connection is a child going to have? The child learns by feeling. What feeling is there when they're pressing buttons? And so we have taken knowledge away from them. We have to bring that knowledge back. So removing the veils of avidya, ignorance, is the first step that we have to do. And so great teachers like Sri Aurobindo, who are embracing all different paths, he loved the Veda, he wrote The Secret of the Veda, because the Veda did not deny any part of our life. The three lower levels that you talk about, Sri Aurobindo talks about them, mind, prana and body, are to be transformed according to the Veda. And they had reached a very high level, and they put that in a symbolic form. And then we go to the higher level. And Sri Aurobindo embraces that. Whatever was beautiful, whatever was true, depends, whichever tradition, he took it and brought it in a vast vision. And that is the genius of Sri Krishna, who brought it all together in the Gita, gave us that beautiful vision. And Sri Aurobindo gives us the same vision again in a modern language. And if you start seeing that, everything starts connecting. Veda, Vedanta, different panthas that Indians had, whether it's Sankhya, whether it's Tantra, whether it's Yoga, whether it's Vaishnava Bhakti, all of it come together in his yoga, which is why he called it the integral yoga. Sorry, but I thought it was worthwhile talking about.
So we should now open it up. I just wanted to say that Parikshit ji very rightly said that the Purohit, of course, is also someone who has the hita, or the, you might say, welfare of the Pura. Pura is, you might say, city, Jaipur. But this is the real Pura, isn't it? The body is the actual village of consciousness or city of consciousness. But the point is, Purva, also east. And that sun that comes from the east is also the sun of Agni that's already inside me. So all the forces of nature are already within me. And Agni, as he rightly said, represents the will. So in other words, the will to transform, or the energy to evolve, is already in you. It's irresistible. And the only thing we have to decide to do is to be partners, to be, as it were, co-sharers of the responsibility of evolution, and not just be subjects and slaves of nature, but say, listen, I want to help. I want to stand up and take responsibility for the earth, for everyone around me, for my fellow beings, not just humans, all kinds of life, and beyond life, all consciousness. So you become a partner in this journey. So now let's get some questions. We have about 9.5 minutes. Yes, sir, at the back, the young person with the... Yes, you. And please make it a question if you don't mind.
And Pura also means fullness, which is where the Purusha comes from. Purusha has 5 roots. So this body is a city of 9 doors. So Navadwara, Puri, which is one of the descriptions of the body. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for that wonderful talk. My question relates to the role of mother in Aurobindo's life. And many people have questioned that how Aurobindo's ashram was used as a platform. And by co-option, by certain interests. And when we talk about, you mentioned Tantra, can you also shed some light on what was happening with Madame Blavatsky, Order of the Black Star, during, around and in and around Pondicherry and Osho's ashram, Aurobindo's ashram? Thank you.
So let's talk about the mother. I think that's a very important question. And I haven't written about the mother because just like writing about Sri Aurobindo is a vast task, writing about the mother herself is a task that is, unless you're inspired, you can't do that. But Sri Aurobindo's concept of the mother was the highest level of Adya Shakti, the Shakti of the universe who has all intelligence. And he has written a beautiful monograph on the mother with 6 chapters, and he talks about the 4 powers of the mother, divine mother, whether it's Saraswati, Maheshwari, Mahalakshmi or Mahakali. And that's a beautiful way of seeing the universe, and he invokes the mother because India to him was also the divine mother. India was not just a geographical entity. And so he links this worship of the divine mother to India, and so takes away the narrowness, the parochialness of how we see our own land. And that's what he did. He constantly advances our borders. But worshipping the mother is an instinctive aspect of our religions, of our panthas in India, for sure. And you can see that not only in Tantra, in Bhakti, Ma Durga, Navratris, in other traditions too. Catholicism has it very powerfully. Other traditions, the mother is, and every one of in our life, whoever is sensitive, the mother is important. Invoking that principle was the important part. Now the mother who was his associate, Sahayogi, was another very advanced spiritual being who put into action, even when Sri Aurobindo passed away, who put into action, executed what his vision was. Sri Aurobindo was a great yogi, but we see the balance of a male and a female. And the male visualizes, sees Shiva, has the highest consciousness, but to bring it into reality, you need that feminine force, the Mahashakti. Without the feminine force, nothing works in this universe. And Margaret Thatcher said it beautifully. If you want something to be discussed, get some men. If you want something to be done, get a woman. Right? So the mother, and Sri Aurobindo himself said, without the mother, I would not have been able to execute it. So she, in a human form, brought it into reality. And that's all I can say. I know we have very little time. I don't know much about Osho being part of that. Madame Blavatsky's was not so much associated with Sri Aurobindo, although they had some run-ins during the independence movement. Or maybe
it was Annie Besant.
Annie Besant, but Madame Blavatsky was different, and she started the Theosophical movement, which went to Annie Besant, and she found J. Krishnamurti. But that would be another book, and I would.
But I can assure you that these are absolutely false rumors of the ashram being hijacked and all. Auroville is a different cup of tea. Most people don't realize that the Sri Aurobindo ashram and Auroville are totally different.
But that's but that's not important. We're talking about Sri Aurobindo. What humans do with things, we make a mess of everything. Yeah. But let's learn from the best.
Yeah. Madam, go ahead. Yeah. Mike, please. Mike, please.
It was a wonderful session. Thank you. My question is related to as you mentioned, you talked about the Agni Tattva. So I just want to understand what exactly is the concept behind giving Surya ko Jal Chadana, number 1. Number 2, as recently we are talking about the mother, word Ma. So I just want to understand Ma Shakti in Hindu rituals. Why at certain places, in certain temples, the sacrifice is required. Like in the Kamakya temple, earlier there was in Shila temple in the Amer also. Why the sacrifice is needed in a dharma like Hindu?
Yeah. So, what was the first question?
First question is related to.
Why do you offer water to the?
Yes.
So everything it is symbolic.
Yeah.
Surya is the highest consciousness. You are invoking Surya. You're not. So the Veda approaches not by praying only, but by invoking and bringing down that consciousness. And if we understand the Gayatri mantra, Yo Yonah Prachodayat, so come and impel my mind, take my thought and make it move. That is what he's asking. That is why the Gayatri mantra is so powerful, if we understand the spiritual strength behind it. Offering water. Water is what? Water is a principle of consciousness and being. Wherever water is used in the Veda, think of it as either Chitta Shakti or being, apas. When you cross the waters, what does that mean? You're crossing the being to another land, another consciousness. Same principle like the hill. Adri is not just a dead hill that you're climbing. That was not worth it. The Veda would not be worth it. But to climb the hill of being to a new level of consciousness. So water is life force. Water is your Shakti. You're offering it to the highest consciousness and you're invoking that to come and move your thought. In fact, they go even further. Find the sun in the darkness of the rock. As Sri Aurobindo takes it further, finding that awareness in your body. The second one, we have human beings change something beautiful into different forms. That's our prerogative, that's our freedom. In the Veda, there is really no animal sacrifice, there's no human sacrifice. The Shunakshep episode that comes, he's not sacrificed. The priests refuse to sacrifice, and it's a great pun. Shunakshep, the Rishi is making fun of himself. Shunakshep means the tail of a dog. He calls himself the tail of a dog, and what a beautiful episode he has written. So there's no need for sacrifice. If you want, the word sacrifice is not yajna. The whole translation is wrong. Yajna, again, if you go into the Nirukta, has at least 15 meanings. One of the meanings is Vishnu, one of the meanings is Shiva, one of the meanings is yoga, dharma, self-offering, giving all of yourself. Nowhere in our Sanskrit Nirukta does killing anyone is part of yajna. I hope I've answered. I know we have little time.
We are run out of time. I only wanted to say that if you see sacrifice as consecration, then we have to consecrate.
She's talking about animal sacrifice.
Yeah, but we have to make everything holy. We have to make everything sacred. That is the true meaning of sacrifice, to bring...
That's why I don't like the word sacrifice.
Yeah.
But let's take one more question.
Last one.
Yes.
Which one? Who has the most burning question, Agni related? Actually, I noticed you first. Go ahead. This is the last question. I'm afraid we're out of time.
Hello. Yeah. You talked about yoga. So in present world, there is a concept of no pain and no gain. But in our tradition, we used to emphasize on Sahajasthiti. So what Aurobindo has said on Sahajasthiti.
Yeah. So I'll give a very simple statement. What Joseph Campbell said to us. If someone asked me, what should I do? And he took it from our Indian tradition. And sometimes we listen to the Westerners more than we listen to ourselves. He said, follow your bliss. Right? Satchidananda, follow Anand, you'll find God. Follow your bliss. So first you have to find what bliss is. That takes a lot of intelligence and sensitivity. What makes me truly happy? My happiness is not by taking away from you, stealing from you. What is it that truly gives me happiness? And that takes me to the Vedic word soma. We talk a lot about soma. Soma is beer, soma is wine. Let's have some somaras, alcohol, ephedra. There's an herb. There are 15 different herbs they have suggested as somaras. Somaras has nothing to do with a drug or an herb. These guys were not drunkards who were hallucinating. Soma means the moon. Indu. Soma means bliss, the ananda. The moment you do Agni or invoke Agni, that means tapasya. The tapa, the energy of it, creates soma within you. That soma filters in your heart and goes in the kalasha of the heart through the sieve called pavitra. Look at these terms, how beautiful. You feel the som within when you start doing yoga. Sahaj yoga, just follow your bliss. Everything goes smooth and easy. Sri Aurobindo calls it the sunlit path. What a beautiful term he has used. So please understand, anytime someone says somarasa, remember they're invoking the highest, most beautiful ananda for you. And we can go into the nirukta of it someday. But we are at zero, shunya. And I think that's the best time to stop.